Hello everyone, my name is Sniping is Fun, and I welcome you all back to the next video in the Season 2 return of The 5 lists. I recently brought this back within the last couple weeks. I've already talked about DLC ideas for Mortal Kombat 11, anime that I feel deserve a remake, a new series remade. We need to keep the train rolling, keep it rolling, and talk about more The 5 list in this return of Season 2, and this time it's not going to be a video game related topic. It's not going to be an anime related topic. It's going to basically be a movie / comic book related topic. And you see the name of the video, you see the thumbnail when I change it, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And due to the fact that I'm doing this specific topic, you know exactly what's coming next when I talk about the opposite side of the spectrum for the series. And it's going to be the 5 Marvel heroes that need to be showing up in the MCU. Obviously, if you don't know what the MCU is by now, it's been going on since 2008. Iron Man. We just recently, within the last month and a half, got Avengers Endgame. It's one of his big spectacle continuity series, cinematic universes in recent memory. You kind of have to be blind, deaf, stupid, or whatever to not know it was created, let alone coming from Marvel Comics, which have been around forever. The MCU has been going on for quite some time. It's now just finishing up its phase 3 with Spider-Man Far From Home in like a month or so when that comes out. Avengers Endgame wasn't the end of phase 3, despite the fact that it really should have been. But yeah, once Spider-Man Far From Home comes out, we're going on to phase 4, and then phase 4 leads to phase 5, 6, 7. They're going to continue this for quite some time. The MCU is way too popular for them to end, and there's a lot of stories and characters from the comic books and TV shows that they can still adapt. So yeah, there's still a lot of missing heroes that have yet to show up in the MCU. And that's why I wanted to do this video. I wanted to do this video so I can talk about 5 ideas I feel should get in. One thing I wanted to mention, because they're the 2 cliche choices here, and it's obviously they're going to happen at some point, so I did not want to include them, despite how much I wanted to include one of them, because for years I wanted these characters to show up in the MCU. But this list will not consist of the Fantastic Four, and it will not consist of the X-Men. I've been wanting X-Men and Fantastic Four in the MCU for quite some time. They finally did that Fox deal. In the coming phases, we're going to finally see those characters in there. They're obviously going to show up eventually, so I don't want to include them in this list because they're the go-to obvious choices that everyone wants to see show up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But without this, since we're going on way too long, let's get started with the 5 Marvel superheroes that need to be put in the MCU. Now, the first one I include here is a character that does technically come with the Fox deal and with the, technically is in the realm of the X-Men and whatnot, but not an actual X-Men, but kind of fits into the mutant category. It's one of Marvel's oldest characters, and it's in that same spectrum of Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four, the universe that they still haven't tackled in the MCU, and that goes to Namor the Submariner. I know a lot of people actually want to see Namor get in. Namor's been a very old school character, probably one of Marvel Comics' earliest creations, dating back to the 30s, the late 30s. I think I got the date here, April of 1939 was his first appearance in the comic books. He is technically a mutant, technically, like a human sea captain, half-breed, princess of Atlantis. Basically, he is Marvel's Aquaman. I don't know who came first, Aquaman or Namor. One of them copied off each other, but it's basically Marvel's version of Aquaman, half breed, half human, half Atlantean, fish swimming around dude, if you really want to go with that. I know that's kind of the general decision, but he's not, he's like it. I'm not trying to say he is Aquaman, but he's like Aquaman. But he is a very, very popular character in the Marvel universe, Marvel comic books and video games and cartoons and whatnot. He's a character I've seen a lot of fans, a lot of people actually want to see included in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He kind of fits into that anti-hero category. He's not really a good guy, but he's not really a bad guy. He has come to fight against the likes of the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, and the Defenders at some point. But he's also fought alongside them to defend the Earth, because obviously he's pretty much the king of the sea. He's one of the rulers of the sea. So yeah, he needs to help and team up with the other heroes, he is. So you could include him probably at some point as maybe an anti-hero in a movie where there's a main villain, probably an Avengers movie would be the best bet. Maybe debut him in an Avengers movie where there's a main threat and he gets into it with the Avengers, but at the end has to team up with them and then becomes like an anti-hero that sometimes teams up with them. I do think Namor deserves it. He's one of Marvel's classic characters that has not been included in the cinematic universe yet, and I think he'd be cool to include to see his power of controlling the water and manipulation and fish and all of his like extra powers he basically has. He would be a cool inclusion, and I do think Namor does deserve it. And at this point, now that they have the Fox deal, they technically can include him because I think he's one of those characters that kind of was held back because of what franchises Fox owned all those years. So yes, Namor the Submariner should be in the MCU at some point. The second one on this list goes to a character that his unit, his team, where he comes from, has already been showing up in the MCU, but he specifically hasn't. He's a major character that is very popular and important to the comic books and to the cartoons and video games and whatnot, but he specifically hasn't shown up in MCU yet, but I think he can kind of fit into that space aspect that they're kind of pushing out now. It's all galactic and Earth is connected to space, and we know about the Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain Marvel and the Skrulls and everything. And with what Thanos did with Endgame and Infinity War and whatnot, now that they're focusing a lot on space and galaxy-based characters, I think it's finally time to include him, and that goes to Nova. We have had the Nova Corps. They showed up in the Guardians movies, and we now know that technically the Nova Corps has been destroyed so that, when Thanos went to get the stone, he destroyed them and killed pretty much everyone. We never saw the destruction, though, so you can't really take out the fact that there's probably some survivors there, of which would be Richard Rider, probably the version they would go for because he's like the most popular version of Nova. I know there's a few different characters in the comic books that technically took up the Nova name. It's kind of a general concept in comic books that different characters, sometimes in superhero comics, take up the mantle of a certain character sometimes. But yeah, Richard Rider, I think, is the main popular version of Nova. And you could basically say that he survived and he wants to go team up with the Guardians, team up with Captain Marvel, team up with someone in the galaxy to take, and protect the galaxy, protect Earth, protect people around the universe. He's been a character since the 70s. I think around 76 was his initial, creation. He's been a popular character since then. He's a major character in a lot of different comic books, cartoons, and video games. And he's like he would be probably the main choice to start off with. And building that galaxy universe, like connecting the Earth with all the different galaxies and starting to build like an intertwined MCU universe, because until Endgame, like the Earth people on Earth, all the heroes, Avengers on Earth weren't really super knowing of like Captain Marvel and knowing of the Guardians of the Galaxy and all those different space galaxy type foes and good guys and whatnot. And now that Earth and they're all connected because of the Infinity War stuff, yeah, I think at this point he's like the one to start pushing that alongside the Guardians and Captain Marvel, obviously. But yeah, I definitely think he deserves to get in, and they've already introduced the Nova Corps, so at some point they have to include Nova himself. Number 3, we'll go to a character who is a major Marvel character, like more so on the dark side of things. He's not a straight up good guy, but he's not a bad guy. He's in that anti-hero category, just like Namor was. And it'd be kind of cool to see him team up with a lot of darker characters in the MCU when they start bringing like the Dark Avengers and whatnot to him, because I think he is technically part of the Dark Avengers, and they are kind of featuring like the new Avengers eventually and different renditions of the Avengers post Endgame. And he is a character that's been wanted for quite some time. He's a major character in the comic books. I think he was created he was created in the 70s as well. There's my second character on this list that was created in the 70s, and he basically is big in the video games. He's had his own movie series already, a trilogy, in fact, back in the early 2000s. And I think his side of the universe of Marvel, like some of those darker characters, if you're going to start including some of them, which it's kind of rumored that they're going to start doing, because they're doing the new Avengers at some point, so they're eventually going to have to probably do the Dark Avengers, you got to have Blade. Blade has to be in there. Blade has to be in the MCU. Whoever plays him, I don't care. It could be Wesley Snipes again, but due to the fact that they're creating a new universe, it should be someone new. And since we haven't heard about him because he's a half vampire, half human, Dampier, he's probably younger, so you'd have to have someone else playing him that he only has been around probably for so long and pretty much fighting demons and monsters and devils, creature type people in the shadows. So obviously the Avengers and whatnot would not have seen him at any point because he's been keeping his identity hidden. So I think it'd be best to probably get a younger actor to play him to pretty much suggest that he has only been around for so long. But yeah, a Dampier, half vampire, half, human. He was created in 1973. He's been a major character since then. He's very affiliated with like some of the Avengers. He's affiliated with the Punisher, which, not saying like, it confuses me with the whole Netflix series if they're part of the universe or not, which is really weird to me because technically they're supposed to be, but they're not. I don't know. But yeah, like if they ever include them, like you have the Punisher teaming up with him in the MCU. Yeah, you have a lot of ways to go about it, and then you start including some of these dark, devilish, monstrous characters in the MCU, which we still haven't seen too many of those yet. Like I said, we're getting the Galaxy feature, but we're not seeing the super demonic, evil characters yet. And there's a lot of those in the Marvel Universe, in the comic books and cartoons. And introducing like the main guy that goes and hunts them down because he's basically a vampire hunter outside being half vampire. He fights the creatures of the night. It'd be kind of cool to start seeing like some of the darker characters in Marvel show up, and he's a very popular character. He's one of the characters I've wanted in the MCU for so long now, and hopefully by maybe Phase 5 we see him in there. I don't know. I would probably count him out on Phase 4 because Phase 4 is probably going to be really pushing the space galaxy type characters. So that's why I think Nova might show up in Phase 4 at some point. But like Phase 5 onward, they should start showing up some of the more of the characters that are on Earth as well. And I think him and his side of the story would be a major conclusion. And he's also super freaking popular. You're bringing in a character that everyone and their mother wants. Number 4, I think she would be a very interesting character because of the controversy of the character she's related to and connected to, and the fact of his lack of movies since his first one in the MCU, because he hasn't had a movie since his first movie, and he's only really ever been in the Avengers movies. And I'm talking about She-Hulk. Like, seems to be some sort of controversy because of like the studio that made the movie and the ownership of the Hulk character and so on and so forth, that really he can't be in like his own movies. He only can really now be in the Avengers after, his movie back in 2008. But She-Hulk, I think, could be the next one to include to kind of push, because now we know, spoilers if you have not seen Endgame, technically Hulk was put out of commission for a while, so I don't think that's going to write him off the MCU entirely. We're obviously going to get the Hulk back. Hulk is too popular to freaking throw out the MCU and can't, basically put him out of commission for good. He's going to be out of commission for a long time. He's going to probably have supporting roles, but I don't think he's going to be a major factor in battles until maybe at least Phase 5. He'll be out of action for sure in Phase 4. Probably as supporting background characters at some point. But She-Hulk is basically, it's Jennifer Walters. It's Bruce Banner's cousin. She kind of gets a blood transfusion at some point that gives her the power to turn into the Hulk. And if you can't use the Hulk as much, I'm sure she kind of has a little bit more leeway room to use her in movies and give us a She-Hulk movie. And it kind of continues the Hulk story without specifically using the Hulk. I really wish we could get more Hulk movies, but it's like him and Thor and him and like the Avengers. It's sad how little he's been used in the MCU, really. But she's a really popular character. It's a good female character to include in the MCU. Not include her because she's female. She's a badass character on her own. But it's a cool female character to create. She's had a legacy since the 80s. She was created in like the early 80s. It's been a popular inclusion since then, a popular major character since then. And it kind of pushes the Hulk story post like him being put out of commission with Endgame and the death of like Black Widow and their little romance that they haven't had pretty much since like Age of Ultron, and like him trying to maybe be like a teacher to the new Avengers, and then eventually his cousin gets involved, gets transfused, and then becomes an Avenger herself. She can control the powers better than he can, even though now he can control the powers because it's Professor Hulk. But yeah, I think She-Hulk would be a nice inclusion to include. And she's a popular character, and I just to include her because she's a major character in the comic books and video games and cartoons and whatnot. So why the heck not? And my 5th and final character on this list is a major character, and he's probably one of the characters I want to see show up in the MCU just as much as Blade, if not more so. And he has showed up in the Netflix series. I haven't really watched those yet, so I don't really know which version of this character they include, because this is just like Nova. There's multiple characters that have donned this character's mantle, and I don't know the whole idea of the Netflix series confused me because they're supposed to be in the same universe, but yet they're not. They mention stuff from the MCU, but then the MCU doesn't mention them, which is obvious because the Defenders and whatnot are minor, ground level, street level crime characters. But I really would love to see them meet up with the Avengers and team up in the MCU. But one of those variations showed up in the one. I think it was the Defenders or the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I forgot which one it was, but it wasn't the version that I'm talking about. And my fifth final character goes to the Ghost Rider. Why has the Ghost Rider not showed up in the MCU yet? He is a major, major character. He's been around since August of 1972, making, on my list, 3 characters that made their comic book debut in the 70s. The 70s really created a lot of cool Marvel characters, didn't they? Didn't it? And basically, I'm talking specifically about Johnny Blaze's rendition of him. Motorcycle riding, classic design, one you usually see in Marvel vs. Capcom freaking version of the Ghost Rider. Like his version showing up. I don't know if I don't know the exact one they have in the Netflix series. I think it's Robbie Rice, but Johnny Blaze, he basically makes a pact with a contract with the devil and gets the power of the Ghost Rider, which is passed down in lineage, passed down from person to person, and he becomes a demonic vehicle riding, or in some of the older ones were horse riders and whatnot, but like an outlaw type character going after demons and devils and vampires and creatures of the night kind of thing. So he would easily fit into a Blade movie. To bring Blade in, make a buddy cop movie of Blade and the Ghost Rider. But he's basically been part of the Dark Avengers, which pushes my concept of, say, Blade. He's been in the New Avengers, which is what the MCU is currently pushing, and he's been part of the Defenders, which is in the Netflix series. So it depends on where they go from there, but yes, how popular he is in the comic books, in his own movies, back even despite how good they were with Nicolas Cage and everything. Inside the Netflix series, in video games, whatnot, he's a really popular character, and I feel he deserves it. He's one of the missing inclusions that I can understand them not including him yet, but if they never include him at all, it's really confusing, and I really think he deserves to get in. And that's it for my 5 Marvel heroes I feel need to be included in the MCU. We have Namor, the Submariner, Nova, Blade, She-Hulk, and the Ghost Rider. Put in the comment section what you guys think. What Marvel heroes do you want to see eventually make their debut in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Who do you think is going to show up in Phase 4? Do you think any of these characters will eventually show up? Do you agree with any of these 5 I mentioned? What other ones do you want to see eventually show up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU, going forward with Phase 4 onward? Put in the comment section down below. We can discuss it there. Thanks for watching. My name is Sniping is Fun. Peace. Please subscribe if you want to. Have a lovely day. Bye.